are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to College Loop Podcast, episode 208 of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Larck, A on Twitter, and I'm here to talk to y'all today about my top 5 most important games for Auburn football in 2024. But before we get into that, I think it is very important to shout out Auburn men's golf for bringing in their first ever national championship last night. It was outstanding to watch. Auburn and Florida State were tied 2-2 going into J.M. Butler's last, I think, 3 or 4 holes that he had to go up against. And Auburn, he got it done. Auburn wins the title in the 2023-2024 sports calendar, if you look at it and read it carefully. Out of the entire state of Alabama, there's only one national champion, and that would be the Auburn Tigers winning the golf championship. So huge shout out to them again. Rolled Tumors. It was packed at Tumors. That was awesome. I wasn't there, actually. I made it sound like I was there. I was not there. I saw it was rolled. They rolled Tumors. Everyone was packed out. It's just nice seeing Auburn fans loving Auburn again, and really seeing how cool it is to watch an Auburn team that doesn't get talked about nearly enough winning a national title, especially as in a dominant fashion as they have been all throughout the season. I really wish Jackson Coyven could have won that national champion, but that stupid flag had to be in the way, which was just so sad to watch. But got a ring nonetheless. But with that, I'm going to move on to the meat and potatoes of today's episode. I'm going to be ranking the top 5 most important games on Auburn's schedule going into this season. I think it comes down to a list of a few things. I think in terms of the rivalry of it is going to be an impact just in that. The importance of where the game is, where it falls in the schedule, and does Auburn have more to gain in it if they were to win? And that kind of goes into my honorable mention. It's Texas A&M. I did not put them in there. I kind of thought about it with the whole can Mike Elko win in Jordan-Hare Stadium in year 1. And that was pretty much the only honorable mention for top 5. But my number 5 is going to be Kentucky. I think it kind of falls into the same category as talking about how October is such a very huge month for Auburn football. Auburn is not going to be at home the entirety of the month of October. So October 26th, Auburn take on Kentucky in Lexington. I do think that the game is going to be kind of favored towards Auburn right now, at least. But I do think that finishing out October with a win would just be awesome for the team. I think that this game is going to be that much more of a storyline because the fact that Brock Vandagriff plays for Kentucky, and a lot of Auburn fans decided to make a wave trying to get Auburn to get Brock Vandagriff, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous to see that happen. But Auburn and Kentucky has always been a fun game whenever they play on the football field. It's always been a fun game whenever they play on the basketball court. It's a game that doesn't get watched enough, and that kind of came out weird. I think it's just I think the last time Auburn played Kentucky would have been 2020? I think the last time Auburn played Kentucky. Yeah, 2020. That was the first game back from COVID. And before that, I think it was 2016. Auburn's on a current 4-game win streak or 3-game win streak against Kentucky. Pretty much owns them all time. But it's going to be impactful because you're going to have a potentially last season in Lexington, Mark Stoops trying to win. Trying to have another good season that he's been having with Kentucky, maybe try to get 9 wins again. I just think Kentucky's really built themselves up through the portal to be not a contender, but to be a top end team. And I know I ranked them low on my last episode. I think Kentucky is one of those teams that could go either way. I do think they're going to kind of trail off a little bit, but It's going to be a tough game in Lexington, nonetheless. Kroger Field is always going to be a little bit of a tough match wherever it is. Mark Stoops always seems to coach his butt off whenever he needs to. So that's currently my number 5 game on the schedule. Coming number 4, keeping in the October trend going, Missouri is my number 4 game. And I contemplated putting this up higher above the number 3 team, just because I think that Auburn has a higher chance of winning this game than they do the next one. So middle of October, October 19th, Auburn will be traveling to Columbia, Missouri to take on a red-hot Missouri Tigers team, who I think is going to be third in the SEC. I think Eli Drinkwitz has built a program that is very respectable, and should be, and everyone who plays him and whoever plays Missouri ever in the country should be very worried about what Missouri can do now. Offensively, this is a very stout team. Luther Burden is the best wide receiver in the country. If you want me to say that even more about Luther Burden, go check out the War Report of Gaming, where I ranked him as one of my highest overall wide receivers in the new college football game. I won't tell you what overall he is, because you have to go watch that for yourself. But yeah, I think that Missouri truly is a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say a franchise in waiting, or but I think they're a tiger on the prowl. I guess that kind of works. Because I think that they are ready to make that leap, that jump into a top end SEC contender. They might already be there, but I think that Missouri could be a team that the SEC and the country is kind of going to be worried about seeing in the SEC championship, potentially winning the SEC championship. That's how good I think Missouri is. I am riding the Missouri bandwagon as like my hyped up team in the SEC. So yeah, Missouri currently says my number 4 most important game on the schedule. Coming in number 3, sorry. The October schedule continues. The Deep South Owners rivalry is always going to be a game in this list, no matter what year it is. Auburn will be traveling to Athens, Georgia, to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. This is going to be it's a game that I don't feel very confident in. I think Georgia still is very talented. I think they're the best team in the country on paper and on the field. I know this is like the first one on the list that I'm not too sure Auburn will win. Because, or like, I guess overtly negative to the fact that Auburn winning this game, especially the fact this in Athens. Auburn, I can't remember the last time Auburn won in Athens. And I have the list in front of me of the games. I think it has been a terribly long time since the last time Auburn was able to go into Athens and take down the Georgia Bulldogs. And let me just even going back to check that. It has been since, and I am scrolling. It's been since 2005. The last time Auburn went into Athens, Georgia, and took down the Georgia Bulldogs. 31-30 was the final score for that game. But the rivalry in and of itself holds so much, especially because we don't know if Auburn will be playing Georgia every year if the 9-game conference schedule doesn't go through. So it kind of stands to that. I mean, now looking back at last year's schedule, that LSU game kind of holds a lot more impact because Auburn doesn't play LSU this year, and we don't know if they'll play them next year. So that's kind of where I stand on that. It's kind of a level of impact of the rivalry in of itself. The fact that Auburn will be going to Athens to hopefully try to break what has been, 19 years? I guess 19 years of probably about 20 games because Auburn played them twice in 2017. I just think that the game, again, it just holds so much weight as a rivalry game, and this is a rivalry game that I think finishes in top 5 of the SEC. Really, because I think that the game matters that much. So this is kind of like a testament to the SEC. Get the 9-game conference schedule coming on, because I'm already mad that we had to drop LSU off the schedule. But I'm going to be even more mad if they drop Georgia next year. That'll be a whole other can of worms. I am not for Auburn bowing down from these rivalry games in any way, shape, or form. And of course, it's not Auburn's fault. It's the SEC's for not fixing the schedule or fixing the conference games. Every other conference does 9 conference games, but the SEC only does 8. So yeah, I have Georgia's number 3 most important game in the regular season. Before we get into the last 2, I do want to let y'all know if you were tuning into the College Loop, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, whichever one you are partaking of the College Loop in. I just want you to know that if you are partaking of the College Loop, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Leave your list for your top 5 most important games of the regular season. And of course, if you're not on the YouTube chat, you can also go to the comment section. And of course, if you're on the podcast, go to our social medias, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. You can just comment at us, say, hey, here's my top 5 list, and we'll take a look at it. And of course, if you're looking for other ways to support the show outside of liking, commenting, and subscribing, you can also check out thewarreporter.com, go to their shop, and you can also get the merch as well. The College Loop Feeling Loopy t-shirt and the College Loop hat, which I am currently wearing for the first time ever. I got it last night. It was a nice surprise to find out that it came in a day early, so I could record this episode for y'all with the hat. They were very intuitive about that. So I have the commercial to play for y'all, and when we get back, we will be talking about the last 2 teams on my top 5 most important games list. So we'll be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes, looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreporter.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feeling Loopy t-shirt as well as your College Loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. So, of course, yeah, go to thewarreporter.com, go to the shop, and you can get your very own Feeling Loopy t-shirt as well as your College Loop hat. Each of those, $25. It's $50 total. What a better way to spend $50 for Father's Day than to buy your College Loop dad hat and the Feeling Loop t-shirt for the father figure in your life. So getting to the last 2 games on the schedule. Number 2, the first true test of the 2024 season, in my opinion, Oklahoma. This will be the first home game that I think really holds weight to the season. Of course, I mean, you have Alabama A&M, California, Berkeley. I don't know why I said California. Cal Berkeley and New Mexico to start your non-con slate. Then you have Arkansas start your SEC slate. But I'm not too privy on Arkansas this year. I think that there's a dead man walking a head coach in Sam Pittman. So Oklahoma is the first true test of the season because of the fact that Oklahoma is in the SEC for the first time ever. This is I believe their first true away test. I know they play Tennessee, but I do believe they play Tennessee at home. So them coming to Jordan Hare Stadium, and Oklahoma has a pretty stout start to the season in terms of difficulty. They range in their strength of schedule above Auburn in the first 4 games of the season. But I think that this game alone will set the tone for the rest of the season. I think if Auburn wins this game, I think they come out of October with at least 1 win. I think they beat A&M. I think the Oklahoma game is the difference between an 9-3 season and a 7-5 season. And I know you can fall in between there, but I think that Auburn kind of starts off the season as an 8-4 team. And I think beating Oklahoma kind of raises you up to 9-3. So I think that game is so important for that matter and that matter alone, because of the fact that if Auburn takes down Oklahoma, and of course I don't think Oklahoma is like this powerhouse of a team. I don't think they're going to come to the SEC and just start winning right away. I think Texas is ready for that. Auburn gets to avoid Texas for a year, which is nice. It's very nice. But everything surrounding this game, Jordan Hare Stadium is going to be packed. It should be a 6:00 kick. If it's not, I'm going to have a conversation with the NCAA or whoever is. I don't. It's not the NCAA doing this. It's the broadcasting. So I'll have contact with the SEC, SEC Network or ESPN for why they are scheduling this game earlier than 6. Because that's going to be a packed out Auburn crowd. That is going to be a crazy Auburn crowd. That is going to be when Penn State stepped into Jordan Hare Stadium the first time level of crowd. Hopefully the game is completely different than how that game went. But I do think that Oklahoma sets the tone for the season. And again, I'll say it again. I think that this game matters more for Auburn getting more wins than what they're expected, and I think ultimately A&M matters too in that sense, but in that regard, I do think that if Auburn beats Oklahoma and goes into the Georgia game, I think the Georgia game could be closer. And then you got a bye week for Missouri, which kind of helps that out too. I think that the Oklahoma game would put Auburn in the rankings. Really, I think Auburn. Someone's like, I think USA Today ranked Auburn in like 44th in the country. If Auburn goes 4-0, they'll be in the top 30 conversation because that's just how that's going to work. They're 4-0. It's a 4-0 like mid blue blood team. Not the Auburn's not a blue blood in football, but they're like on the next tier down. So Auburn be in the top 30, and you beat Oklahoma, I think it's in top 25, and then of course you got Georgia, which I think might knock you out of the top 25. Just because I think you'll be on the verge. And then of course you'll have the bye week for Missouri. But I like Auburn's chances against Oklahoma right now. Of course, I need to see how Oklahoma looks in the first 4 games of the season. Luckily, we had those first 4 games to watch before. And of course, we are only 93 days till Auburn football is back. So that's a lot of fun. So yeah, currently my number 2 is, of course, the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, huge shocker here. Big surprise coming up in just a second as I rank my number 1 overall game of the season for the 2024 football season. It's the Iron Bowl. It's going to be this every year. I don't think I've ever ranked Auburn's top 5 most important games without ranking the Iron Bowl. Very rarely have I ranked the top 5 most important games of the SEC without putting the Iron Bowl at like 1 or 2. This is the greatest rivalry in college football. I'd be remiss to not even say that's the greatest rivalry in college sports. I think that Auburn has not won in Tuscaloosa since 2010, and that was with the help of a literal superhero in the form of Cameron Jarrell Newton. And I think that this game comes down to a potential win for Auburn because of the fact that it's year 1 of a coach. We don't know what Alabama's going to look like. I think Alabama's going to still be very good, so I'm not like too privy on the fact that Auburn might get the upset. But right now, I think that if you look at the season, and if say Auburn were to beat, let's say Auburn was a 2-loss team going to the Iron Bowl, that'd be awesome. I mean, I don't think Alabama's not getting out of the season unscathed. I do believe they have Texas on their schedule. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know their schedule by heart. I try to avoid contact with that other team from the other side of the state as much as possible. But looking at their season as it loads, first game, Western Kentucky should be a cakewalk for them. USF and Tuscaloosa. USF gave them trouble last year. USF still a very good G5 team. So it's going to be interesting how that goes. Wisconsin in week 3. Go Badgers, by the way. I do think that game is going to be a real test for them as well. Then you got Georgia at Vanderbilt, which not even going to talk about that one, versus South Carolina. Not even talk about that one. At Tennessee versus Missouri, at LSU, Mercer, at Oklahoma, and then Auburn. Bama has a very tough schedule. That's rare for me to even say that in that context, but they have a very difficult schedule. And I think that it comes down to the Oklahoma games, the LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, and Georgia, and Wisconsin. I mean, at worst, before they even get into the Iron Bowl, Alabama could have 6 potential losses. And I'm not. That's not a prediction. That is not a prediction in the slide. It's only knock on wood, not a prediction. I hope it was. I wish it would happen. But it kind of comes. It's down to that. I mean, the last game of the season is going to be very important for both these teams. Because I don't think Alabama's going to beat Georgia. I don't think they're going to beat Missouri right now. And a jury's still out on LSU, Tennessee, and Oklahoma, and Wisconsin as well. Alabama just has a much tougher schedule than Auburn does this year. Auburn's very favorable in terms of the fact they only really have not three potential losses, but three like heavy hitter games, and then only got two like Oklahoma and Texas A&M games, and then the rest of the SEC games are Vanderbilt and Arkansas, and then the non-con slate is very favorable as well. Auburn should go 4-0 in the non-con. If they don't, I'm going to be upset. You might see a grown man cry on that Sunday live stream. Hopefully not though. But the Iron Bowl is always going to be the number one game on the schedule. It's always going to be circling that Saturday after Thanksgiving. That is always going to be the case. The season comes down to that. Of course, you got bowl season after that. I don't think either one of these teams are going to be battling out for SEC supremacy. I think it's gonna come down to hard bowl bids, really. And this game is gonna be important for that. I think if Auburn were to ever beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa out of the past like however many years since I want to say probably since 2012 would have been the first year after that Cam Newton that they were in Tuscaloosa. It's this year. I think you got a dwindled Alabama roster from last year. I mean, you got a lot of talent regardless. It's still a Nick Saban roster, in my opinion, but a lot of depth left. It's not Nick Saban anymore. It's Kalen DeBoer. Jury's still out on how good he's going to be in the SEC. Right now, I would say it's closer than ever for a prediction for Auburn to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, which is awesome to think about. The past few years, I usually mark down the loss for Auburn and Tuscaloosa. That's always been the case. This year seems favorable. I wish it was the same way for the Georgia game, but I don't think it is right now. But I do think that the Alabama game is favorable in the sense that there are a lot of factors that could go into Auburn getting an upset, which is awesome. But yeah, with that, that's my top five. Of course, I'm going to run through it one more time. Kentucky, at Missouri, at Georgia, Oklahoma, and at Alabama. That's my top five list. Leave your top five list in the comment section below. And if it's good, maybe we'll react to it. If it's bad, maybe we'll react to it again. But with that, going to move on to the last few things we got to talk about today. Softball, Maddie Penta earns third team All-American for the season. This is, I believe, her third season in a row getting an All-American honors. So that's awesome. If it's not third, it's her second. So bite me. Just a great overall player for Auburn softball. I think that if you're not already looking back at Maddie Penta as one of the greats of Auburn softball, something's wrong with you. I think if you were to start excuse me, if you were to make a list of the top like 10 best Auburn top players of all time, if Maddie Penta is not like one or two, something's wrong with you in your way of thinking because you're wrong. Maddie Penta just did so much for Auburn softball, and it sucks that she never really got to win while she was here. But I do think that she left the program better than she found it, which is saying a lot, saying for the last year's seniors and this year's seniors as well. Auburn softball is going to be a lot of fun to watch next year, especially with a new coach. The pitching rotation, I'm kind of excited to see with Milena, Emma, and AB kind of leading the charge now that Shelby and Maddie Penta are heading off to further their careers wherever it may be. It's going to be a lot of fun to kind of see this new look team, because Auburn's not had to worry about the pitching rotation over the past few years. It's always been Maddie Penta and Shelby Lowe, and then AB or Samantha Yarbrough, whoever was filling in that third rotational piece. But now you don't have those anymore. You don't have your two founding members. You got your three girls who have made a name for themselves as part of the rotation. Going to have to start stepping up and getting more playing time, and I'm very excited to see how they're going to pan out. And of course, Auburn Golf again. Got to start the show how I ended it. Huge shout out to Auburn Golf for getting a national championship. It is awesome to see Auburn winning championships in other sports. Sadly, it didn't happen for all the other sports that were going on during the spring spring sports season. But one national championship is more than what Alabama has. So, and with that being said, that'll do it. Kind of a shorter show, 26 minutes, depending on how the outro goes. But yeah, so again, leave your list for your top 5 teams for Auburn football in 2024. I'm Dylan Larck, @boytang on Twitter. And of course, you got me on Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, at DOLNLARCK. And of course, you're right on the College League podcast, which you should like, comment, and subscribe. Again, leave your thoughts. And of course, you'll listen to us on podcasts on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, words, and Google Podcasts. Check us out there. Rate us 5 stars. And of course, don't forget to check us out on social media as well, especially if you wanted to see the countdown to Auburn football. We are currently, again, 93 days. Got a very special post for the day, for the 93. And of course, we'll be doing that throughout the remainder of the countdown. 92 is next, and the 91, 90, 89, all the way down till we get to the big 0. So, again, with all that being said, thank you for tuning in. War Eagle, get your College Loop merch. And of course, this has been the College Loop Podcast.